We are counting down the 9 most questionable canned foods lining UK supermarket shelves, 7 you will want to avoid at all costs, and 2 that are surprisingly safe. From budget brands hiding ultra-processed meat and sky-high sugar to rare tins packed with real organic ingredients, we are exposing exactly what is behind those bright labels. How does your favorite stack up in this ranking? Let us kick off the countdown with number 9. Tesco value canned meatballs often catch the eye on the bottom shelf, promising a hearty meal for a low price. But a quick look at the label tells a different story. The declared meat content typically lingers just below 50%, with the rest of the can padded out by water, soy protein, and a medley of fillers. Stabilizers listed as E451 and E452 appear high on the ingredient list. These are phosphates added to keep the meatballs from falling apart, not to boost nutrition or flavor. Alongside these, generic flavorings and thickeners are used to mask the blandness that comes from using so little real meat. UK food labeling rules require brands to state actual meat percentages, and Tesco Value does not hide the fact that nearly half the content is something else. For shoppers, this is a reminder the cheapest canned meatballs may look like a bargain, but the label reveals a product built on additives and cost-cutting. Checking the percentage of real meat and the number of E numbers is the best way to spot these ultra-processed options before they end up in your basket. Asda Smart Price, canned spaghetti sits on shelves as a budget staple, but the nutrition label tells a different story. Each 100 grams contains 8.1 grams of sugar, which is more than 60% higher than the UK high sugar threshold for savoury foods. For comparison, that is even higher than many children's breakfast cereals, and it rivals the sweetness of some desserts. The ingredient list does not hold back. Sugar is the 4th ingredient, and glucose syrup follows soon after, both boosting sweetness far beyond what anyone expects from canned pasta. Modified maize starch and generic flavorings round out the formula, leaving little room for natural tomato or real spaghetti flavor. A single 400-gram can contain more than 32 grams of sugar, over half the recommended daily maximum for an adult according to NHS guidelines. The end result tastes more like a pudding than a savoury meal. For anyone watching their sugar intake or simply looking for a genuinely savoury canned option, this is one to avoid. Always check the sugar content per 100 grams, especially in products that do not taste sweet at first bite. Sainsbury's Basics. Baked beans are a familiar sight in the value aisle, but a closer look at the label reveals something most shoppers miss. In these cans, thickeners like modified starch actually appear before beans in the ingredient list. That means you are getting more texture agents than the main ingredient itself. The sauce-to-bean ratio is noticeably skewed, with the beans suspended in a dense, almost gelatinous sauce that owes its body to additives rather than slow-cooked tomatoes or natural bean starch. Modified starch is added to mimic the creaminess of higher-quality baked beans, but it often leaves behind a gluey aftertaste that masks the natural flavor. For those expecting the simple, hearty taste of beans in tomato sauce, what is inside is more about engineered mouthfeel than honest ingredients. The ingredient order tells the story. Water and tomato puree come first, followed by thickeners, then beans. This approach stretches the product further and keeps costs down, but it also means the protein content is lower than in premium versions where beans are the star. The result is a product that fills you up with bulked-out sauce and texture agents, rather than delivering the nutrition and taste of real beans. For anyone comparing labels, seeing thickeners ranked above beans is a reliable sign that the can's contents have been designed for shelf life and price, not for flavor or genuine nutrition. Morrison's Savours canned chicken soup stands out for what is missing as much as what is inside. The label reveals chicken content hovering around 3 to 5%, barely enough to justify the name. Instead of generous pieces of poultry, most of the can is filled with water, modified maize starch, and a lineup of thickeners. Modified maize starch appears high on the ingredient list, shaping the soup's body and texture in place of slow-cooked meat or rich broth. This starch-heavy formula creates a consistency that feels filling, but delivers little real protein. UK food labelling rules require brands to declare the percentage of named ingredients, so the low chicken percentage is there in black and white for anyone who checks. Flavour enhancers, often listed as monosodium glutamate or as E numbers such as E621, are added to mimic the taste of slow-simmered stock. These compounds boost savory notes, but they also mask the lack of actual chicken and the blandness of a soup built mostly from starch and water. For shoppers, this highlights why reading ingredient lists and meat percentages matters. A product labeled chicken soup might deliver more thickener and artificial flavor than genuine poultry. The reliance on flavor enhancers and texturizers shows how value soups stretch a small amount of meat as far as possible, keeping costs down but also lowering nutritional value. This approach is common in budget canned soups, where the name on the tin promises more than the recipe delivers. When the meat content is this low and the ingredient list this long, it is clear the focus is on price, not on honest, nourishing food. Co-op value canned stew is a fixture in the budget aisle, but what you get inside the tin depends on one thing above all else: salt. The nutrition panel often shows a sodium content above 0.8 grams per 100 grams, nearly double what health experts recommend for a single serving of stew. For context, the NHS advises adults to keep daily salt intake below 6 grams, and just one can of this stew can contribute a hefty portion of that limit in a single meal. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry set, with preservatives such as potassium sorbate and sodium nitrite appearing alongside reconstituted vegetables and low-grade meat. These additives are not there to boost nutrition or taste. They are designed to keep the product shelf stable for months and to compensate for the thin, watery texture that comes from using minimal real ingredients. Consumers often report that the stew lacks body, with chunks of potato and carrot floating in a salty broth instead of a rich, hearty gravy. Salt and preservatives do much of the heavy lifting, masking the lack of depth and making up for the absence of slow-cooked flavor. This approach allows manufacturers to stretch low-cost ingredients further, but it also means that each serving comes loaded with sodium and chemicals that most people would never add at home. For anyone watching their blood pressure or trying to limit processed additives, the numbers on the label are a clear warning. Comparing the sodium content per 100 grams is the simplest way to spot when a canned stew relies on salt and preservatives instead of real nourishing food. Aldi corale canned hot dogs are a classic example of how budget-friendly processed meats are engineered for shelf life and cost control. The label reveals a story of aggressive processing. The main ingredient is often listed as mechanically separated meat, which means meat scraped from the bone using high-pressure machines. This method yields a paste-like base, which is then blended with water, stabilizers, and a cocktail of additives to simulate the familiar hot dog texture. Sodium nitrite, listed as E250, is a standard curing agent in these cans. Its role is twofold. It preserves the pink color and prevents bacterial growth, but it also brings a less obvious risk. When nitrites react with certain proteins during high heat processing or cooking, they can form nitrosamines, compounds under scrutiny for their potential health effects. UK regulations set strict limits on how much nitrite can be added to processed meats, but the presence of E250 on the label signals that these hot dogs rely on chemical preservation, not just refrigeration, to maintain their appeal. Texture is another giveaway. The rubbery snap of these hot dogs comes from emulsification, where meat, fat, and water are whipped together with stabilizers until smooth. This process, while effective at creating uniformity, also erases any trace of real meat texture. The end result is a product that feels more like a soft, salty tube than the firm bite of higher quality sausages. If you are scanning an ingredient list, spotting terms like mechanically separated meat, E250, and a long parade of stabilizers is a clear sign of a hot dog built for price and shelf life, not for nutrition or taste. The reliance on nitrites and heavy processing pushes these hot dogs high on the list of canned foods to approach with caution. Lidl Newgate canned curry stands out for the sheer length of its ingredient list. The label runs on for more than 25 separate items, far beyond what is needed for a simple curry. Sunflower oil sits near the top, ahead of any real spices or vegetables. This is not the gentle richness of coconut milk or a touch of ghee. It is a bulk dose of refined seed oil, chosen for cost and shelf life, not for culinary tradition. Scan further, and the pattern becomes clear. Thickeners, stabilizers, and a roster of artificial flavorings dominate the recipe. Named spices like cumin, coriander, and turmeric appear in tiny amounts, if they appear at all. Instead, generic curry powder and synthetic taste boosters try to mimic the complexity of real Indian and Thai curries, but the flavor comes across as flat and oddly sweet. The result is a sauce that clings and coats, but lacks the warmth and depth of a home-cooked curry. For anyone comparing labels, the warning signs are hard to miss. A curry with more than 24 ingredients, heavy on cheap oils and vague flavorings, is the definition of ultra-processed. It is built for uniformity and profit, not for taste or nutrition. While every canned meal needs some preservatives for safety, the sheer number of additives here is a red flag. If you are looking for a curry that delivers real spice and honest ingredients, this can is best left on the shelf. When the ingredient list reads more like a chemistry exam than a recipe, it is time to question what you are really eating. Biona organic canned beans stand out on the shelf for what they do not contain as much as what they do. The ingredient list is refreshingly short, often just beans, water, and a pinch of sea salt. There are no thickeners, stabilizers, or artificial preservatives. The can carries the Soil Association Organic Badge, a mark that means every stage of production is tightly regulated. Under UK organic standards, synthetic pesticides, artificial additives, and genetically modified ingredients are strictly banned. Even the water used in the canning process must meet purity guidelines. This approach is a sharp contrast to value range cans packed with starches and E numbers. With Biona, the focus is on simplicity and traceability. Each batch of beans can be traced back to certified organic farms, where crop rotation and natural fertilizers replace chemical treatments. The result is a product that delivers the natural flavor and texture of the beans themselves without the need for masking agents or texturizers. For shoppers, the difference is clear on the label. There is no need to decipher long chemical names or look up unfamiliar codes. The organic certification means that every additive is either naturally derived or not present at all. This level of transparency has made Biona a trusted name for those who want to avoid ultra-processed foods but still need the convenience of canned goods. Because of its accessibility and commitment to clean sourcing, Biona organic canned beans are widely stocked in UK supermarkets and health food shops. The price is higher than entry-level brands, but many see it as an investment in quality and peace of mind. For anyone looking to cut down on additives and keep their pantry stocked with genuinely simple food, Biona sets a benchmark that others rarely match. Daylesford organic canned soups represent a rare exception on UK supermarket shelves. Each can start on a real working farm in the Cotswolds where organic vegetables are grown to Soil Association standards and tracked from field to kitchen. Unlike the value range products stacked nearby, these soups are made with whole vegetables, filtered water, and a base of slow-cooked organic stock. No E numbers, no artificial preservatives, no shortcuts. The ingredient list is refreshingly brief. Carrots, leeks, potatoes, or whatever is in season, simmered with herbs and a pinch of sea salt. Every batch is preserved using heat alone, locking in flavor and nutrients without resorting to stabilizers or chemical thickeners. Traceability is central to the Daylesford approach. Each can be traced back to a specific harvest and field, with production records verified by independent organic inspectors. The Soil Association certification on the label is not just a marketing badge, it means every step from seed selection to canning meets strict rules banning synthetic pesticides, artificial additives, and genetically modified ingredients. Even the broths are made in small batches, using bones from organically raised cattle and poultry or vegetable trimmings from the same farm, ensuring nothing is wasted and every ingredient is accounted for. This level of transparency stands in stark contrast to the anonymous supply chains behind most supermarket canned foods. For Daylesford, the goal is simple: deliver a soup that tastes like homemade, with nothing added that would not be used in a farm kitchen. The result is a product that is as close to scratch cooked as you will find in a can, pureed carrot and coriander, minestrone packed with real beans and greens, or a classic tomato soup brightened with fresh basil. Because preservation relies on heat alone, there is no need for potassium sorbate, sodium nitrite, or other shelf life extenders. Each recipe is designed to highlight the natural sweetness and texture of the vegetables themselves, rather than masking blandness with sugar or salt. The sodium content is typically well below the UK high salt threshold, and added sugars are absent altogether. Flavor comes from the ingredients, not from enhancers or syrups. For anyone seeking convenience without compromise, Daylesford organic canned soups set the standard. They are not the cheapest option, but the price reflects the cost of organic farming, careful sourcing, and a refusal to cut corners. In a market flooded with ultra-processed anonymous cans, Daylesford offers a rare alternative, food you can trace, trust, and actually pronounce. For shoppers who want certainty about what is in their food and what is not, this is the high watermark for clean, honest canned meals in the UK. Across all 9 entries, one pattern stands out. Most UK canned foods rely on cheap fillers, sugar, and heavy processing, while only a rare few use real, clean ingredients. This reveals a food system where convenience often outweighs nutrition. For shoppers, label reading isn't just smart, it's essential. The biggest risk isn't what is in the can, but what is hidden behind the label. Subscribe for more honest supermarket breakdowns.